The red dawn painted the reconstructed skyline of New Delhi with an eerie glow. Marcus Lane stood on his modest balcony, sipping bitter coffee as he surveyed the fortified architecture below. Defensive turrets were cleverly integrated into what once were purely aesthetic designs. Beauty with teeth, that was humanity's new aesthetic. 10 years had passed since the first invasion, and still, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The skies seemed too quiet these days. The stars too still. His communications device chimed. Marcus ignored it. They always wanted something, the United Earth government, the scientists, the generals. They wanted his brain, his inventions, his nightmares. But Marcus Lane had given enough. At 73, he had earned his solitude. The device chimed again. Persistent. Marcus sighed and activated it. Marcus Lane, came the crisp, formal voice of General Eva Rostova, commander of the Earth Space Defense Force. Your presence is requested at Bunker Zeta. Priority Alpha. I'm retired, General. Find someone else to build your weapons. This isn't about weapons, Lane. A pause. We're picking up signals. Deep space. Pattern matches nothing in our database. Marcus felt a cold dread spreading from his core. Natural phenomenon, he suggested, knowing better. Dr. Thorne disagrees. He specifically requested you. Eris Thorne, the boy wonder of quantum physics. Marcus had met him briefly at a conference. Brilliant, idealistic, dangerous in the way only the genuinely gifted could be. Thorne headed Project Aegis, the UEG's attempt to mass-produce and control Marcus's technology. I'll be there in 3 hours, Marcus said finally. The Hyperloop transport carried Marcus beneath the fortified landscape of Central Asia. Through the window, he glimpsed vast agricultural complexes. Food security had become paramount after the invasion destroyed 80% of the world's traditional farming regions. Fields were now protected by kinetic shields, a simpler application of his technology that he didn't entirely oppose. At a station, a family boarded. A young girl, perhaps 5 or 6, stared at Marcus with wide eyes. Are you the man who saved us? She asked, guileless. Her father, face scarred for what Marcus recognized as plasma burns, apologized quickly. Lily's teacher showed historical footage in class. I'm sorry, sir. It's fine, Marcus said, but it wasn't. He hadn't saved anyone. He'd just survived long enough to cobble together a desperate defense after billions had already died. Lily remained standing before him. Will they come back? She asked. Before her father could admonish her, Marcus looked directly into her eyes. If they do, we'll be ready. The lie came easily. They would never be ready. Bunker Zeta was buried beneath the rebuilt ruins of Ulaanbaatar. As Marcus descended into the earth, retinal scanners and neural pattern detectors tracked his every move. Security had become religion in the post-invasion world. General Rostova met him at the final checkpoint. She was tall, imposing, with prematurely silver hair, cropped short in military fashion. She wore the blue and black uniform of YesDF with hard-earned pride. Lane, she acknowledged with a curt nod. Follow me. They walked in silence through sterile corridors. Marcus noted the defensive architecture, blast doors every 50 meters, independent life support for each section, redundant power systems. Lessons learned in blood. You've upgraded, he commented. After we lost Shanghai Bunker, we reconsidered our approach, Rostova replied. Shanghai Bunker had been Earth's primary defense coordination center until 3 years ago when a mysterious explosion killed over 2,000 personnel. The official explanation was reactor failure. Marcus had his doubts. They entered a circular chamber dominated by holographic displays. A dozen analysts worked at various stations, their faces illuminated by data streams. In the center stood Dr. Eris Thorne, studying a 3-dimensional representation of signal patterns. Thorne was younger than Marcus remembered, barely 30, with a lean frame and intense focus. When he noticed Marcus, his expression brightened. Marcus Lane, he said, extending his hand. Your paper on quantum entanglement across spatial anomalies changed my life. Let's hope it doesn't end it, Marcus replied dryly, shaking the offered hand. Thorne's smile faltered slightly. We've detected something I think you should see. He manipulated the holographic display. A series of pulses appeared, organized in complex patterns that shifted and reformed in ways that seemed almost deliberate. "We picked this up 3 weeks ago from our deep space array near Saturn," Thorne explained. "At first, we thought it was background radiation or instrument error. But the pattern repeats, with slight variations that follow mathematical progressions." Marcus studied the display. "It's a language," he said. "Finally." "That's our assessment as well," General Rostova interjected. "And it's coming from a direction of Proxima Centauri, the same origin point as the first invasion." "There's more," Thorne added, his voice dropping. "Our scout ship Hermes disappeared near Saturn's rings 2 days ago. Complete communication blackout. No distress signal." Marcus felt his mouth go dry. "Any debris field? Evidence of mechanical failure?" "Nothing," Rostova answered. "It simply vanished. And you waited 2 days to tell me?" "We needed to be certain," Thorne said. "We've lost ships before to equipment failure, human error. But not like this," Marcus finished. "You think they're back?" Neither Rostova nor Thorne answered immediately. Their silence was confirmation enough. "Show me what you've done with my work," Marcus demanded. Thorne and Rostova exchanged glances. "Project Aegis is classified at the highest level," Rostova began. "Then unclassify it," Marcus snapped. "Because if they're coming back, your classifications won't matter anyway." After a tense moment, Rostova nodded to Thorne. "This way," the young physicist said. They descended further into the complex, finally emerging onto an observation deck overlooking an enormous chamber. Below, dozens of scientists and engineers worked around a central apparatus, a spherical device approximately 3 meters in diameter, suspended in a containment field of pulsing blue energy. "The Aegis core," Thorne explained, pride evident in his voice. "Based on your original designs, but refined for stability and outputting 4 times the power." Marcus stared at the device. His creation evolved beyond his intentions. "It's still too unstable," he said flatly. "The containment field is barely holding. We've made adjustments to the quantum harmonization." "It's not enough," Marcus interrupted. "The power curve is exponential. Double the output, and the instability quadruples. You've made it 4 times more powerful? That's 16 times more unstable." Thorne's expression tightened. "With respect, sir, we've implemented fail-safes." "Fail-safes?" Marcus laughed bitterly. "Against a weapon we barely understand." He turned to Rostova. "This isn't ready for deployment. If that field collapses during activation, you'll lose everything within a 5-kilometer radius." "We don't have time for perfection, Lane," Rostova said. "We've deployed smaller versions to our orbital platforms and lunar base. Fixed emplacements with dedicated power sources." "Jesus," Marcus muttered. "You've put these all over the system." "We did what was necessary for humanity's survival," Rostova stated firmly. "If they return." When Marcus corrected, "When they return." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent alert. The observation deck's displays activated automatically, showing a tactical feed from the outer system. "General," a voice announced, "we have multiple contacts emerging from Translite near Jupiter's orbit. Configuration matches known enemy signatures." Rostova's posture stiffened. "How many?" "Initial count shows 37 capital ships and approximately 200 smaller vessels. They're deploying toward Europa and the inner system." Marcus watched as the tactical display updated with red markers representing the alien fleet. It was happening again, but differently this time. The first invasion had been a frontal assault, direct and devastating. This formation suggested a more strategic approach. "They've learned," he said quietly. "All ESDF vessels to combat stations," Rostova ordered. "Deploy to predetermined defensive positions. And inform the UEG Supreme Council. We are at war again." Sarah Chen had been tending her small garden plot when the sirens began. At first, she'd thought it was another drill. They had them monthly in Denver Arcology. But when the emergency broadcasts activated on every screen and surface in the city, she knew. They had returned. Sarah had been 17 during the first invasion. She'd lost her parents when Boston was destroyed, and her left arm below the elbow when their refugee convoy came under attack. The prosthetic was advanced, almost indistinguishable from flesh, but the memories remained embedded in her nerves. Around her, people were rushing toward the arcology's central shelters. Children cried. Adults wore masks of determined calm that couldn't hide their terror. Sarah didn't run. What was the point? If they were back, no shelter would be deep enough. The public screens showed UEG President Adeyemi addressing the planet. Sarah couldn't hear his words over the sirens, but his grave expression told her enough. Behind him stood military officials and scientists, including that young physicist who'd been all over the news, Thorne. He looked terrified. Sarah touched the medallion around her neck, a piece of circuitry encased in clear resin. She'd found it in the wreckage of an alien scout ship, a souvenir from humanity's unlikely victory, a reminder that they could bleed. She squared her shoulders and joined the flow of people heading to the shelters. She would survive again. They all would. Europa Research Station had gone dark 18 hours ago. The final transmission showed chaos. Researchers fleeing through corridors, emergency lights flashing, and a glimpse of something moving in ways that organic life shouldn't be able to move. The recording ended with a researcher screaming as darkness enveloped the camera. In the ESDF flagship Leonidas, General Rostova reviewed the footage for the 12th time, searching for tactical information amid the horror. "Freeze frame," she commanded. The image paused on a blurred shape. "Enhance Sector 4. The computer processed her request. The image clarified slightly, revealing what appeared to be a humanoid form, but with elongated limbs and a strangely articulated spine. Its skin seemed to shift, as though not entirely solid. "What the hell are those?" asked Commander Jimenez, her second in command. "Something new," Rostova replied grimly. "They're adapting." The Leonidas led a battle group of 15 vessels, the most advanced warships humanity had ever constructed. They carried conventional weapons, railguns, and missiles, alongside the new Aegis-based energy projectors. The latter remained untested in actual combat. "Fleet status?" Rostova demanded. "All vessels in position, General. Jupiter Defense Grid is online. Martian outposts are on high alert." On the tactical display, the alien fleet had separated. The larger vessels remained near Jupiter, while smaller groups advanced toward Mars and Earth. "They're being cautious," Rostova observed. "Testing our defenses before committing." "Orders, General?" Rostova studied the display. Conventional military wisdom suggested holding defensive positions, letting the enemy commit to an attack vector before responding. But conventional wisdom hadn't saved Earth last time. "Battle Group Alpha will engage the advance force near the asteroid belt," she decided. "Let's show them we've learned a few tricks too." The battle erupted 4 hours later. ESDF vessels launched a coordinated attack against the alien advance force, unleashing a barrage of conventional weapons followed by targeted strikes from the Aegis projectors. The results were initially promising. 2 enemy vessels were completely disabled by the energy weapons, their strange organic mechanical hulls rupturing in spectacular fashion. A third was crippled by concentrated railgun fire. But the aliens adapted with terrifying speed. Their vessels began emitting a dispersal field that diminished the effectiveness of the Aegis weapons. What's worse, they deployed a new countermeasure, a pulse that somehow disrupted neural activity in human crews. 3 ESDF ships went silent, their crews incapacitated. The Leonidas shuddered as enemy fire impacted its shields. "Shields at 60%, reported the tactical officer. "The Thermopylae and Actium are reporting critical damage." Rostova gripped the command console. "Order all vessels to fall back to Mars' defensive perimeter. We need to regroup." As the ESDF fleet retreated, the alien vessels did not pursue immediately. Instead, they consolidated their position in the asteroid belt, establishing what appeared to be a forward operating base. "They're being methodical," Rostova told her staff. "This isn't a rampage like before. This is a campaign." In the secure conference room aboard the Leonidas, Rostova established a quantum-encrypted link to Earth. The faces of UEG Supreme Council members appeared on the display, along with Marcus Lane and Dr. Thorne. The Aegis weapons showed initial effectiveness, Rostova reported, but the enemy adapted quickly. We've lost 4 ships and have another 6 with significant damage. And the enemy losses? Asked Defense Minister Okada. We confirmed 3 vessels destroyed, 2 severely damaged. But they've reinforced their position with ships from their main fleet. Marcus leaned forward. Did you record the neural disruption effect? Yes. I'm transmitting the data now. Marcus and Thorne studied the incoming information. The older inventor's expression darkened. They're targeting the limbic system, Marcus said. Specifically, the areas responsible for fear response. They're weaponizing terror. Can we develop countermeasures? Rostova asked. Possibly, Thorne replied. But it will take time we don't have. There's worse news, Rostova continued. Long-range scans show they're establishing what we're calling incursion zones at specific locations. A world map appeared, highlighting areas in the Amazon rainforest, central Siberia, and the Sahara Desert. They've also established similar zones on Mars and Luna. These aren't random. They're targeting locations with specific resources or strategic value. What about population centers? Asked President Adeyemi. Avoided so far. This isn't about immediate extermination. They're securing territory. Marcus and Thorne exchanged glances. They're preparing for a prolonged occupation, Thorne said. Or extraction. Extraction of what? Demanded Okada. Unknown, Rostova admitted. But whatever it is, they're willing to fight methodically to get it. We need to hit them harder, Okada insisted. Deploy all available Aegis platforms. No, Marcus interrupted. The platforms aren't ready, and they've already shown they can adapt to the technology. Then what do you suggest, Lane? Okada's tone was accusatory. Hide in our bunkers until they've stripped our world bare. I suggest we fight smart, not desperate, Marcus replied. They've changed their strategy. So must we. The meeting concluded with Rostova ordered to consolidate ESDF forces to defend Earth directly. Meanwhile, ground forces would engage the aliens in the incursion zones, attempting to disrupt whatever they were establishing. As the conference ended, Marcus pulled Thorne aside in a private communication channel. The Aegis Core, Marcus said quietly. How close are you to full activation capability? Thorne hesitated. We've solved the containment issue for brief activation, but sustaining output at maximum levels would require. I'm not talking about sustained output, Marcus interrupted. I'm talking about a single, maximum yield pulse. Thorne's eyes widened as understanding dawned. You're suggesting a doomsday option. I'm suggesting we prepare for when all other options fail, Marcus corrected. Because they will. 3 weeks into the war, Earth was holding barely. ESDF had suffered devastating losses in space, with only a third of the fleet still combat-capable. The aliens now controlled the lunar surface and had established orbital superiority around Mars. The incursion zones on Earth had expanded despite fierce resistance from UEG ground forces. Conventional weapons proved increasingly ineffective against the new alien ground units, cybernetically enhanced warriors and the dreaded terramorphs, biological constructs that seemed designed specifically to induce panic in human fighters. In the Amazon incursion zone, Marcus Lane led a guerrilla campaign against alien harvesting operations. Despite his age, his intimate knowledge of the enemy and experience from the First War made him an invaluable field commander. He'd assembled a force of veterans and indigenous fighters who knew the terrain. They're establishing a perimeter here, Marcus explained to his team, indicating a holographic map. Every 12 hours, they send harvester units to this river basin. They're extracting something from the soil or water. What are they taking? Asked Lucia Vega, his second-in-command, a former Brazilian Special Forces operator. Samples suggest they're filtering for specific rare Earth elements. But there's something else. They're also collecting biological samples. Plants, insects, microbes. What? Lucia pressed. Marcus shook his head. Unknown, but they're being systematic. This isn't random looting. Their guerrilla tactics had yielded small victories. They destroyed 3 harvester units and disrupted alien communication relays. But for every success, the aliens adapted, bringing in more terramorphs that made fighting near impossible. The twisted, ever-shifting creatures emitted psychic waves that triggered primal fear responses. Even hardened soldiers broke and ran in their presence. Only Marcus, who had developed a partial immunity during the First War, could remain functional enough to organize retreats. "We can't keep this up indefinitely," Lucia admitted after their latest ambush nearly ended in disaster. "They're getting better at predicting our movements." Marcus knew she was right. His team was exhausted, running low on supplies, and the aliens were tightening the noose. His secure communicator activated, a rare occurrence given the aliens' ability to track transmissions. "Marcus," came Thorne's voice, distorted by encryption algorithms. "We need you back at Bunker Zeta. Immediately." "I'm a little busy, Doctor," Marcus replied, binding a wound on his arm. "They've deployed something in orbit. We're calling it a planet catalyst. It's bad, Marcus." Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the jungle night. "How bad?" "Extinction-level bad. It's building up an energy charge. Our calculations suggest it's designed to trigger a catastrophic reaction in Earth's mantle or atmosphere. We have maybe 72 hours. I'll be there in 24, Marcus promised. As his transport lifted off from a concealed landing zone, Marcus looked down at the Amazon rainforest. Even from this height, he could see the alien structures, angular, otherworldly, pulsing with unsettling bioluminescence. They weren't just invading. They were transforming Earth into something alien. Dr. Eris Thorne hadn't slept in 53 hours. His eyes were red-rimmed, his hands shaky as he manipulated the holographic controls of the Aegis Corps laboratory. Around him, his team worked with the focused intensity of people who knew time was running out. "Power distribution is still fluctuating," reported his assistant, Natalie Wong. "If we push beyond 70% capacity, the containment field destabilizes." Thorne adjusted parameters, trying to find the balance between catastrophic failure and sufficient power. "We need at least 90% for the pulse to reach orbit with enough strength." "Then we're dead," Natalie said bluntly. Thorne couldn't disagree. When Marcus arrived 12 hours later, looking haggard from his jungle campaign, Thorne led him directly to the lab. "It's worse than I thought," Marcus said, examining the Aegis Core. "You've modified the harmonic resonance." "We had to," Thorne defended. "The original design couldn't scale to the power levels we needed. And now you have a bomb instead of a weapon," Marcus observed. "Show me the data on this planet catalyst." Thorne brought up the orbital scans. A massive alien construct hung in geosynchronous orbit, a twisted amalgamation of technology and organic components. Energy readings spiked across all spectrums, building towards some critical threshold. "They sent an ultimatum," Thorne explained. "Complete surrender or total planetary destruction. The UEG Council is deadlocked. Half want to surrender, hoping to save something of humanity. The other half prefer to go down fighting. Neither option is acceptable," Marcus stated. "I've been developing a theoretical application of your original technology," Thorne said cautiously. "A total annihilation pulse." "Tap," Marcus said, bitter recognition in his voice. "The very thing I warned about." "Yes, a single, maximum yield energy discharge that could theoretically disrupt all advanced technology within the solar system. It would target the specific quantum frequency that both their technology and ours operates on, and in doing so, tear apart the fabric of space-time around Earth," Marcus added, "creating who knows what side effects." "It's a desperate measure," Thorne admitted. But with the planet catalyst activating, their discussion was interrupted by the arrival of General Rostova. She'd clearly come directly from combat. Her uniform was damaged, a makeshift bandage visible on her shoulder, her face gaunt with exhaustion. "The Leonidas is lost," she announced without preamble. "We engaged their command ship, managed to damage it significantly, but took catastrophic counterfire. I evacuated with the command staff." "I'm sorry, Eva," Thorne said quietly. Rostova's expression remained stoic, but the pain in her eyes was evident. We lost good people, but we proved they can be hurt. She joined them at the display, showing the planet catalyst. That's our target now. We need to hit it with everything we have left. We don't have enough conventional firepower, Thorne pointed out. Then we use unconventional, Rostova countered. Dr. Thorne has briefed me on the TAP concept. Marcus looked between them. You can't be serious. The TAP is a last resort doomsday device. We have no idea what the collateral effects will be. And what's your alternative? Rostova demanded. Surrender? Extinction? We're out of good options, Lane. There has to be another way, Marcus insisted. We've got 48 hours to find it, Thorne said. After that, the catalyst reaches critical activation mass. The three of them stood in silence, the weight of an impossible decision hanging between them. I'm assembling a strike force, Rostova finally said. What's left of our orbital capacity? A suicide run at the catalyst. If we can damage it, even temporarily, it might buy us time to evacuate more people to the deep bunkers. It won't be enough, Marcus said, but without conviction. They all knew the truth. It has to be, Rostova replied, because I'm not authorizing the TAP unless I'm certain there's no other option. She turned to leave, then paused. You have 48 hours to find an alternative, Lane. After that, we do this Dr. Thorne's way. After she left, Marcus turned to Thorne. Show me everything you've done. Every modification, every test result. If we're going to contemplate the unthinkable, I need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. The remainder of Earth's orbital defense fleet assembled in low Earth orbit. 11 damaged warships and 23 fighters, crewed by volunteers who understood the mission's likely outcome. General Rostova commanded from the frigate Defiance, the largest vessel still combat-capable. All ships report ready, General, announced her tactical officer. Rostova surveyed the tactical display. The planet Catalyst loomed above them, surrounded by alien vessels. Energy readings showed it at 67% of projected activation threshold. This is General Rostova. To all ESDF personnel, she broadcast. You know our mission. The fate of Earth, of humanity itself, rests on what we do in the next few hours. We may not survive this assault, but if we can disable or delay the catalyst, we give our people a chance. She paused, emotions threatening to break through her military discipline. It has been my greatest honor to serve with you. Now, let's remind these bastards why they should have stayed away from Earth. For humanity, the battle that followed was brief, desperate, and heroic. ESDF vessels charged directly at the catalyst, absorbing devastating fire from the defending alien ships. Fighter craft sacrificed themselves to create openings for the larger vessels to approach their target. The Defiance, shuddering under repeated impacts, managed to launch its entire payload of conventional and nuclear weapons directly at the catalyst's main energy collector before being split in half by a devastating counterattack. In escape pods and emergency craft, the survivors watched as their weapons detonated against the alien superweapon. The explosions were spectacular, disrupting the energy buildup temporarily. But only temporarily. From the command center at Bunker Zeta, Marcus and Thorne watched the orbital battle unfold. The loss of life was staggering, but Rostova's attack had achieved something miraculous. The catalyst activation sequence had been set back approximately 8 hours. It's not enough, Thorne said, checking the readings. The damage is superficial. They're already beginning repairs. Marcus nodded grimly. He'd spent the past 2 days examining every aspect of the TAP concept, searching for alternatives or modifications that might reduce the collateral effects. He'd found none. We're out of options, he acknowledged finally. The TAP is our only remaining play. Emergency transmissions from around the globe reported escalating alien activity. The incursion zones were expanding rapidly. Terramorphs were being deployed in population centers, causing mass panic. It was as if the aliens knew their time frame had been compressed and were accelerating their plans. The UEG Council connected via secure link, their faces grim with the knowledge of what was to come. General Rostova's attack bought us time, but at a terrible cost, President Adeyemi announced. The Council has voted. We authorized deployment of the total annihilation pulse. The vote hadn't been unanimous. Several counselors had argued for surrender, hoping the aliens might spare some fraction of humanity. But the majority believed extinction with dignity preferable to survival under alien domination, especially given the evidence that the invaders were more interested in Earth's resources than its people. Dr. Thorne will oversee the technical aspects, Adeyemi continued. Marcus Lane will serve as consultant and observer. The activation facility is being prepared now. After the council signed off, Thorne turned to Marcus. I never wanted this, he said quietly. When I joined Project Aegis, I thought we were building a shield, not. I know, Marcus interrupted. No one wanted this. But here we are. The TAP activation facility was a hardened bunker 2 kilometers beneath the surface, isolated from other systems and protected by every defensive measure humanity could devise. The TAP device itself, a modified version of the Aegis core, sat in the center of a massive chamber, surrounded by coolant systems and power regulators. As they made final preparations, a surprise arrived. General Rostova, severely injured but alive, transported directly from a medical facility. She arrived on a hovering medical platform, her body partially encased in regenerative technology. Couldn't let you have all the fun, she said weakly when she saw their shocked expressions. You should be in medical, Thorne admonished. If this goes wrong, medical won't matter, she replied. If it goes right, I can return afterward. Either way, I need to see this through. The 3 of them, inventor, scientist, and soldier, gathered around the control console. Each had a role in the activation sequence, a final failsafe requiring consensus. Final diagnostics check, Thorne announced. Power systems nominal. Quantum resonance chambers aligned. Pulse amplifiers at maximum capacity. Outside, the world held its breath. Those who knew what was coming huddled in shelters or stood beneath open skies, looking up at the alien constructs that had sealed humanity's fate. Those who didn't know continued fighting, hiding, surviving as best they could. In orbit, the planet Catalyst reached 85% of activation threshold. Alien vessels began moving into protective formations, sensing something amiss in the sudden reduction of human resistance. We should say something, Thorne suggested, his hand hovering over his activation key. Something for the historical record, if anyone survives to record it. History is written by the survivors, Marcus said. Let's make sure there are some. Rostova, with great effort, raised her hand to her console. For Earth, she said simply. For Earth, the others echoed. Together, they activated the tap. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, a high-pitched whine built rapidly to a painful intensity. The Aegis core began to pulse with blinding light, energy cascading across its surface in impossible patterns. Containment holding at 93%, Thorne reported, his voice strained. Quantum resonance building toward critical threshold. 10 seconds to pulse discharge, an automated voice announced. Marcus closed his eyes. After a lifetime of creating weapons, his final legacy would be the most terrible weapon of all. I'm sorry, he whispered to no one and everyone. The countdown reached 0. A blinding white light engulfed the facility, the city above, the entire planet. For a breathless moment, the world was nothing but pure, searing energy. Then silence. In orbit, the alien fleet hung motionless. The planet Catalyst's glow faded to nothing. One by one, the massive ships began adrift, their propulsion and guidance systems completely neutralized. On Earth's surface, the wave of energy washed over everything. All electronic systems, human and alien, went dark simultaneously. The terramorphs collapsed, their biomechanical structures disintegrating. Alien structures in the incursion zones crumbled or became inert. But the TAP's effects went beyond mere technology. The fabric of space-time itself seemed momentarily distorted. Bizarre atmospheric phenomena manifested worldwide. Aurora-like displays at the equator, time distortions where minutes passed differently depending on location, gravitational anomalies causing temporary weightlessness or crushing pressure. In the activation facility, Marcus, Thorne, and Rostova regained consciousness slowly. Emergency lights provided minimal illumination, powered by shielded backup systems. Did it work? Rostova asked, her voice barely audible. Thorne checked the minimal readings available. The pulse propagated throughout the solar system. All alien technology appears neutralized. And ours? Marcus asked. The same. We've essentially bombed ourselves back to the pre-digital age. It will take years, maybe decades, to rebuild. But we'll rebuild, Rostova said with determination. We survive. At what cost? Marcus wondered aloud. Days later, they emerged from the bunker into a transformed world. The skies showed strange new patterns, swirling atmospheric disturbances where the energy pulse had interacted with Earth's magnetic field. Communications were minimal, limited to pre-digital technology. Reports came in slowly, carried by messengers or primitive radio. The alien forces on Earth were defeated, their ground troops either dead or seemingly dormant without connection to their command structure. Their ships in orbit remained adrift, dead hulks that would eventually fall to Earth or drift into space. But Earth itself had been changed. The environment showed signs of stress, unusual weather patterns, electromagnetic disturbances that might last generations. Ecosystems struggled to adapt to the sudden changes. Humanity would survive, but on a planet fundamentally altered by their desperate defense. 1 month after activation, Marcus stood on a hill overlooking what had once been Paris. The city was largely intact, but dark. Power had yet to be restored to most areas. People moved through the streets, rebuilding, adapting, surviving as humans always had. Thorne joined him, looking exhausted but determined. The UEG Council is reconvening in Geneva next week. They want us both there. To celebrate or to blame? Marcus asked. Both, probably, Thorne admitted. We save humanity, but at a terrific cost. The environmental changes alone will challenge us for generations. And the message? Thorne nodded. Using makeshift equipment, they had broadcast a simple message into space, aimed at the direction from which both invasions had come. The words were few but clear. Attack again and face total annihilation. Do you think they'll understand it? Thorne asked. They'll understand, Marcus said. The question is whether we understand what we've become. General Rostova approached, moving slowly with the aid of a mechanical brace. Her injuries were healing, but she would never fully recover. None of them would. The council is discussing a memorial, she informed them, for those we lost. And what about what we found? Marcus asked. We discovered we're capable of destroying worlds to save our own. That's knowledge we can't unlearn. Perhaps that's the real message, Thorne suggested. Not just to them, but to ourselves. A reminder of what we're capable of, both the heroism and the destruction. The three stood in silence, watching the sun set over the changed landscape of Earth. No celebration marked their victory, only the quiet acknowledgement of survival and the uncertain future ahead. Marcus looked up at the stars, now visible in the darkened city below. They seemed both more distant and more threatening than before. Humanity had survived, had united, but had changed forever. The power they now knew they possessed would always hang over them, the capacity for total annihilation. Earth had sent its final warning to the stars, and now humanity would need to heed it themselves.